Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 9th of March. Another wild ride in the markets. Up, down, and finally finishing lower. Just a ton of varying news about potential deals, no deals, additional sanctions, removing Russian oil, things that just are going to continue to make risk off more of a prominent feature because people really can't tell the direction things are going, and it's just because they're not watching. But clearly we had NBI white leading, and that usually calls for a move to the zero. Close to it, 41.01, so 52 points away from that stage. We saw some pretty strong buybacks as we get to this closing level. And what happens when we get the NBI white moving below the magenta? We're looking for any potential turn-ups in this particular case. What we would notice that would be orange continuing to drop. At this particular stage, orange caught between red and cyan is continuation. That doesn't mean we aren't going to get this kind of movement, because it's pretty dramatic ranges when you look at that bottom finish number versus where we were at the 23%, 42 to 41. That's some significant action overall. We're looking at the NQ, NASDAQ, all the way, almost reaching that 0 point, but identical readings from DOC, NBI readings. Shakeout also falling off and going lower and in the red zone. So even if we do get some type of turnaround, it's likely to just trade across at best, unless there's some major development, and that's what movement has been taking place. As you can see, oil continuing its climb, still staying underneath that 130 peak. It'll be interesting to see the effects of the U.S. banning oil. Will Europe do the same, which would be like shooting themselves in the foot? Russians potentially threaten to cut off Nord Stream 1 if that's their choice. They don't want to, it seems, according to their statement. But that would be devastating for Europe. But then again, Europe is about to issue another couple $1 trillion in new bonds that they will use to pay off all their other bonds, and then just basically buy them back up themselves, because who's going to want them? They really have zero collateral to them. The real question becomes, at any point, does Russia demand gold for any of their oil? And that would be a major stickler. But now they've pretty much been alienated from all the West financial interactions, and so you basically have thrown China as a potential takeover of reserve currency, or you're going to have a bifurcation now. You'll have two very separate reserve currencies operating completely independent of each other, U.S. and yuan, and that's kind of what Powell was alluding to when we were first talking about the preparation for things falling apart. Euro made a partial move back, but again, the Eurozone is effectively dead. That may stave it off for a little bit, but at the end of the day, who finds them creditworthy? Nobody. From a interest rate standpoint, rates back up a little bit. This should continue to decline as rates really have to rise, as you're seeing. Gasoline and food costs are just going to skyrocket. I think the Russians just banned exports of a lot of their goods to the West, which that will exacerbate certainly food issues, and that when it comes to fertilizer growing season. So this isn't going to end unless some people step back from the brink of it. Bitcoin still caught between our 39, 34 range, but I had also added the positive extreme level, which is just a fraction lower than that right there. From the original breakout, that was the first positive extreme, which was at 38 even. And we had bounced off that originally, retested again, and caught right in between there, and still weak from that reading, though the potential for turnaround again, because that white NBI trailing lower, but still above red in this case. So any tilt up of the white NBI at this particular stage, I would expect to move all the way back down to that zero level. Worth keeping an eye out for. ETH, again, very nice with its moves, but pretty much trading relatively close to how the markets have been behaving. So pretty clean. BES had caught that bid, was looking good, and then roll over once it dipped below 33. That was the end of that one. Tried to come back, and failed again. So white leading on that one, but with the oversold magenta on that, wouldn't take much to turn around. In this particular case, we would be watching that orange a dip back down below zero, and that would indicate potential for a rise. But until then, still not looking that great for the ES from a 5K standpoint. It started off with a little mini rally, sold off quickly. That got all bought back up. On that turnaround of magenta, in this case, it stayed red in here because of the lead of red MBI. But once magenta got over the white in this particular case, and above 23%, pretty well signals positive trend. So at a minimum, it's covered to the short side, and I usually look for it as a speculative long setup in there. And that's when we started to get these beautiful sell-off moves, turnaround buys. And as I was pointing out on the Skype chat, be prepared for some of these rips to the upside to try and potentially create short cover setups. And we started with a few of them, sold off back again to the lows, created a beautiful double bottom setup there. And this is one I look for a lot, where dips back below with the magenta MBI, but spikes back up. At the same time, you're getting green MBI, a DOC cross right here, and that sparked a huge rally. And that one was pretty darn significant when you look at the range from it. 41.65 all the way to 42.75. So that's a serious pump. But as you can see, starting from right here, and marked it right there, positive extreme all the way back down to 41.81 from that peak up move. And the short came in there about 42.65, and you're thinking, okay, I'm going all the way back down to 41, an 80-point move after just having risen about 100 points. And sure enough, filled it all back in, and then even based along there beautifully, cut another buy and sold off again. This was just so easy all day long, and then finally just broke below that, and that's where we finished at the weak spot of the low. So you just can't ask for it any cleaner than that. Every time there was that pivot with white leading, even at the lows, it's like just keep adding into it, and just kept responding perfectly every single time. So all in all, good stuff. There's just not going to be any change to this volatility given the current political situation, and I think that we're going to continue to see some of these erratic moves, as some people keep thinking, well, maybe this is the bottom, and they buy up that dip, only to have plenty of liquidity selling into it to get out, because with those inflation numbers and the uncertainty with food areas and that, it's going to be hard to know exactly what earnings for a lot of companies are going to be and how many revisions are going to have to take place, because it's been so quick and so dynamic. It's going to take a little time before all that start coming out. In the meantime, people are selling that before, just in case. As always, though, I will continue to update you on the Skype chat. Trade well. We'll talk to you later.